Hello and welcome to an all-new Marvel cast, Explosion Network's hub of all things Marvel, a place to talk about everything MCU and beyond, from Avengers and Defenders to Corsair and Beak. My name is Ashley Hobley, your Omega level host, and joining me today is Ultimate Kieran Marchant.
Hi, I'm here to ruin so many things all at once and don't understand how this movie could be included in any timeline whatsoever.
Also joining us, the astonishing Dylan Blatt.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. Schnick.
Awful. So if you haven't worked it out, this is the first episode in our Mutant Rewatch. So we're going through all the Fox X-Men and X-Men adjacent films in the lead up to Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah. Do you guys have fond memories of the X-Men movies? The Fox X-Men movies?
No. No, I do not.
I do. I remember watching X-Men 1, 2, loving them growing up. Wolverine, 2 out of 3 of the Wolverine movies I think are pretty great, at least until I rewatch them and decide their shit at this stage. I remember liking First Class quite a lot, watching cinema. Yeah, I mean, I got especially but I would say X-Men 1 and 2, they came out when I was 12, 13, something like that, probably. They were really cool movies at times. So
I mean, they're seminal superhero movies.
They were those ones were alongside the Spider-Man. But
I like them more than the Spider-Man movies.
Oh,
at least at that time.
At that time,
I haven't watched them in a while, so
yeah.
Find out soon.
Yes. So we're watching these movies in as close to a chronological order as we can. So I'll just run through. Okay. I'll probably have an article up about what order we're watching these in. But we're going X-Men First Class, X-Men Origins Wolverine, X-Men, X2, X-Men United.
Isn't First Class is before? This is before First Class.
No, this is first. We're talking about First Class in this podcast. Because First Class takes place before X-Men Origins Wolverine. We will get into this. It's
not that
the
hard.
bulk of the movie. The bulk of the movie takes place before the events of.
It doesn't.
True.
No,
it does.
Let him finish the readout.
I'll let him finish.
Let me finish. The X-Men: The Last Stands. Then X-Men: just the Wolverine. Then we go to X-Men: Days of Future Past, where the timeline gets reset. We will then watch X-Men: Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, and then Deadpool, Deadpool 2, The New Mutants, and finally Logan. And then eventually Deadpool and Wolverine.
I feel like Kieran's watched these movies, he's seen the list posted in Chanty, and now that he's sat down to record the podcast, he now is sitting there staring at his screen trying to make sense of what the fuck is going on.
because I've always from everything, it makes in my head, I guess I'm wrong then, but it always makes sense that X-Men, the Wolverine is before this.
It's not though.
It's not.
I mean, the first opening credits is, but after that, it's not. It's set after.
Yes.
The year it's set
also in every
after.
timeline I'm currently looking at, Days of Future Past is before Wolverine.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
Just saying, in every list I'm currently looking at, Days of Future Past happens before Origins Wolverine does. But just to throw it out there and really fuck up the ordering while we're recording this podcast.
Well, technically, some of it does, but
so we're doing the chronology. The events of the first 3 movies happened, right? They definitely happened. Yes. And then the Wolverine. Obviously, this happened before First Class happened. Yeah, and then Days of Future Past happens after the events of the first 3 movies.
Yeah, no, but it links into this.
And after First Class.
Into it, because the timeline splits at Days of Future Past.
Correct.
Correct.
But that's why Days of Future Past is technically before X-Men Origins Wolverine.
It is both before and after, but we're putting it after because it makes
would you watch
sense.
it first? You got to watch like all the movies.
I'm just looking at every single chronological. When I'm trying to correct myself because of my fuck up, it's also every other chronological order timeline I'm looking at has Days of Future Past.
I mean,
second.
technically, date-wise, that's the order it should be.
Technically, we should watch Apocalypse first because it's got a bunch of it set before anything.
Oh, no! Fuck off, Dylan. Fuck
In a
off, Dylan.
later date, but it makes Days of Future Past, which some would argue is a high point of the series, would make the most sense in this order.
Right. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and we're watching the Rogue edition. I need to go out and buy the Blu-ray.
Oh my god! It's just on Disney Plus. It's just all on Disney Plus.
No,
watch
fine.
it.
It's
like,
fine. It's
not the
fine.
Rogue edition.
I tried to see if it was available to stream. It's not. But the Rogue edition is the best way to watch the movie.
So after all that, let's jump into discussing X-Men First Class.
A new species is being born. Help me guide it. Shape it. Lead it.
Time for the tour.
You have no idea what I'd give to feel
Normal.
You want society to accept you, but you can't even accept yourself.
Should we have to hide?
Tomorrow, mankind will know that mutants exist. They'll fear us, and that fear will turn to hatred.
Not if we stop a war. Not if we risk our lives doing so. We have it in us to be the better men.
We already are.
The movie we're about to talk about. Please be aware
I feel
we're
like
really
I'm in a fever dream because I swear this the introduction for this was for fucking Wolverine. I'm in a fucking fever dream, everyone.
Please be aware we'll be freely discussing anything and everything about the plot themes and ending of the movie. So if you haven't watched X-Men First Class, come back later. Of course, it is streaming on Disney Plus. So let's talk about X-Men First Class. Released June 3rd, 2011. Directed by Matthew Vaughn. Screenplay by Ashley Edward Miller, Zack Stentz, Jane Goldman, and Matthew Vaughn. Based on a story by Sheldon Turner and Bryan Singer. Based on X-Men by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Starring James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Rose Byrne, Jennifer Lawrence, January Jones, Oliver Platt, and Kevin Bacon. In the early 1960s, during the height of the Cold War, which takes place before the Vietnam War, a mutant named Charles Xavier meets a fellow mutant named Erik Lehnsherr. Despite their vastly different backgrounds, Charles grew up from a wealthy family, while Erik lost his parents at Auschwitz. The two become close friends. As the world teeters on the brink of nuclear war, Charles and Erik, with other mutants, join forces to save humanity. However, the situation soon tears their friends apart. Ciaran, do you understand the timeline?
No, I don't, but it's fine. Carry on.
The Cold War, the events of this movie happened before the events of the Wolverine Origins. I will say, watching them both back to back, which we have for this recording session, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make
a lot of sense, no.
There's a lot of...
There's a lot of really bad shit.
I found really good answers to a lot of the plot holes. Now, they are fan reasons for a lot of the plot holes, but...
It's.
I think we'll probably save those for next week's episode.
I think the thing is, right, and maybe this is now my brain making sense of Days of Future Past being before X-Men Origins Wolverine, that fixes a lot of the fucking plot holes like immediately. Because you just go, fuck it. It's somewhere there by itself.
Yeah. So Ciaran, what do you think of X-Men First Class?
I'm like really mixed on this movie. I remember loving it when it came out. I think now watching it in 2024, looking back, this was released originally, 2011? I think looking back on it now, when we've had not every superhero movie since in the MCU or superhero movies in general have been great, but I think we've had a lot that have been done really well. And I feel like this movie is caught in between the kind of mid to late 2000s superhero movie and then what we've grown accustomed to in the MCU especially. And I think this continues with just Fox, the same as Sony, not 100% getting what Marvel is doing by itself in the MCU. I think Fassbender, McAvoy, and Jennifer Lawrence are all really, really good. Like, I think they are really well casted in this movie. I think their use of, I don't know why, I feel like in this movie, the script writers and the group themselves were maybe pushed a little bit in terms of finding which X-Men they could use or which X-Men they could bring on board, because of course it's the earliest setting for it, so you can't have Scott Summers yet. In theory you can have Wolverine, but where does Wolverine sit in the picture? You can't have Jean Grey yet. You can't, like, a lot of these of the X-Men that we love are kids at that point in time. So I feel like it can be a little hit and miss on their use of some of the mutants throughout this. I think I hate how they use Emma Frost in this movie, because I think Emma Frost is one of my favorite X-Men antagonists, especially as her being kind of a more direct antagonist towards Xavier in terms of their abilities, and her generally playing a really pivotal role in the written format of this franchise. But I think outside of this, the other thing that this movie is really hampered down by is it being really fucking Hollywood. Like, just having these really annoying Hollywood moments in it. Like, pause and then we need to go see an expert in mutations. And it's just like, what the fuck is... Like, why would anybody say it like that? Or just like bits and pieces. Like, well, why the fact that within like 24 hours to 48 hours of Charles revealing himself, or what it seems to be very short time period of Charles revealing himself to more people, all of a sudden you're telling me that Beast has suddenly made Cerebro out of fucking, very quickly in a small time frame?
No, he had always made Cerebro.
But why had he made Cerebro? Like, but there's no reason for him to have made Cerebro, because he didn't know that somebody with Charles Xavier's powers existed. So there's no reason for him to have built it yet. Like, it just, there seems to be a lot, and then another.
I don't know. They could have been G-men before.
I just think, and then on top of that, there's like, I fucking hate how Darwin dies in this movie. It fucking hurts my soul every time I've watched it.
He's not dead.
Yeah, but he may as well be.
He evolved into pure energy and lives on as pure energy.
Oh, it's so fucking bad. It is so fucking bad. I think Kevin Bacon is... It is Kevin Bacon, right? Yes,
it is Kevin Bacon.
I was just making sure I didn't fuck up another actor's name. And I should have looked it up before we recorded this. Like, Kevin Bacon, I think, is a bit hit or miss. I think he's a really good antagonist directly into Magneto, but I don't love him throughout this entire movie. I think this movie tries real hard to be like, okay, we're going to be even closer to the comic books and to the X-Men that people love than we originally were with like the original movies. But yeah, I just feel like they don't fully commit, and that is part of the problem.
Okay, Dylan, what are your thoughts on First Class?
As I said, I really, really loved it when it first came out. I sort of, on the rewatch, I don't think it holds up quite as well. It's a bit of a mixed bag. I would say the movie has some of the real highs of the franchise and some of the lowest. Like, when it's sort of at its best, it's definitely just either James McAvoy or Michael Fassbender just acting. And then the lows are sort of, I would say, the other characters or the villain I don't think holds up as well. I actually think Kevin Bacon and January Jones are sort of like meh threat a lot of this. Like, you've got Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy, who are, I feel like, really like committed and giving a lot to these characters, and then those two just come across as they're like, one take, give it all, which I don't recall getting when I watched it the first time. But I mean, Nicholas Holt's also really good, and like, shout out Byrne, and Jennifer Lawrence is fine. Whatever, like, she's like not bad, but it's like just sort of, it's it's a performance.
It's not her best stuff.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not in the realm of the best stuff. And then I think the final act of the movie is like fine, whatever. I think when the movie's at its best when it's just Erik and Charles talking, or Erik just wanting to kill Nazis, and like a lot of small stuff. And then when it gets bigger scale, it's just sort of that's when it doesn't hold up for me.
It feels a lot like the third act of this movie is like, right, we now need to rush to there being a confrontation between Charles and Magneto, and by the end of this movie, we need them to have split up into their separate groups and gone their separate way. Which I guess looking back at it, I wish they didn't do that so quickly and they'd waited till the next movie for the split.
Well, I mean, the thing with this movie has always been the story was that so obviously they did Origins Wolverine, and it was known at the time they were doing an Origins Magneto movie was the next planned one, and then apparently that got scrapped, and half of the ideas from that got put into this film apparently. So that's why I think you have a lot of Erik stuff, and then focusing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, again, that's the like half of that's we definitely know. The other half is.
I also appreciate how much it humanizes Charles Xavier in this movie in terms of he isn't. He isn't the perfect Charles Xavier that many people know later on from the later stories.
Gets drunk.
He gets drunk. He's
when I was
but like, it's not even that. It's more like how heavily flawed his view is on Mystique and their relationship, and how without him realizing he's putting on these expectations onto her. And kind of forcing his kind of not quite connecting with what she does. And I like it. I don't think even whenever I think is this the first and is this the iteration where Charles and Mystique have this sort of relationship? Like I can't remember this appearing anywhere else.
Not really. No,
and I think
not in the comics. So I don't believe. Yeah.
So it makes it more understandable when she walks away from Charles and she moves and she agrees with Magneto's points, because it's like, Charles never has to hide himself. Charles doesn't have to be somebody else to get around in the normal world. And it's a really interesting point for them to build on that as the movie goes through.
Yeah, I remember really enjoying it in cinemas, having a good time. I agree. I don't think it holds up as well on a rewatch, or just maybe it's just watching it in 2024. Like you said, the Charles Erik stuff is the best stuff in the movie. I think they did some really interesting stuff with making Charles probably not only like you said, like more relatable and like normal, but also making his telepathy like a more useful thing in the field. Whereas, in the X-Men movies, is like I can hear their thoughts, or I just freeze everybody. Now he's like manipulating people in the field, or getting their point of view, or like seeing where people are and try and get information gatherer. The person he's weirdly the person in the chair, but he isn't in the chair yet. I think the villains are fine. I mean, they're there to be adversaries.
I just got the image of I just remember the scene of, and I can't remember his actual name, but the devil mutant just dropping Hazazel just dropping all of those guards, just
all the CIA agents.
All the CIA agents. Just I'm like, this. What the fuck is this scene? Like, sure, we get it. He's dropping everybody to kill him, but like, what the fuck? Okay, sure.
What do you mean? What the fuck? He's getting rid of. That's the most time-effective way to get rid of all of them. If you want to kill a bunch of people, let's drop them from a height from teleporting. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some rough scenes. Like the one that immediately comes to mind is the Beast most Mystique relationship is weird. They immediately got some sort of attraction.
He's
and then as soon as she shows up, I'm like, I'm making a cure. You're the key to it. Let me stick you with needles. And when he's in the process of sticking you with a needle, he's like, let's make out.
Yep.
Yeah. It's very rushed. Like, it feels like this movie has the problem where it's like, all right, we need to form a bunch of relationships to then be able to break up said relationships later down the line, later in this movie. And I think, and that's the problem where I feel like Charles and Magneto's relationship is I always feel like it should be built up over a greater period of time, and it should be them together for a larger period of time. But this movie puts it as very much them speed.
We were together for like a week.
A week.
It was like a
yeah.
pinnacle of my years, you know.
It's really weird because I know that like when they put this out, it was like, hey, we're going to do like a prequel trilogy. That was the plan from the get-go. Like, if all things go well, this will be a trilogy. So in the first movie, let's split up and make Charles versus Erik again straight away. I'm like, yeah, but that's what the other 3 movies were about. Like, wouldn't you break them up at the end of the third one?
100%. I agree.
Yeah.
Because even then, I think he gets to the point. Doesn't he get to the point in the second one where they are like working together, or
in the second one they have to work together?
They always end up working together,
and it's just kind of dumb because it's.
And then you got like, the flashback scene where they get together to help take down Jean, even though they hate each other at the time, and all these weird things. We'll get all to that.
Yeah. It's an ongoing thing.
Also, that was after Charles died, but he's apparently alive, and that's never explained. Anyway, we'll get all to that. That's fine.
We'll get to all of that. But yeah, I think obviously James McAvoy, massive Michael Fassbender, are probably the best part of this movie. I feel like it's helped them having something to base it off. Performances, I feel like helped and like have a place to go. Yeah, I think it was a really bold choice to open the movie with that. Switch scene again.
Camp thing again, yeah.
The concentration camp, which was obviously super effective in the first X-Men movie, and like to redo that and then expand on it was like I think a pretty brave choice. Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff. There's like some really weird, like you probably wouldn't be able to get away with it now, like Rose Byrne just stripping down to a lingerie and walking to the Hellfire Club. Just the general. Misogyny, I guess, this movie. I don't know if it would fly in something being made right now.
I know you've watched Matthew Vaughn's latest movie. Does it still fly?
She's wearing lots of clothes, so
no. In Argyle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. The thing that's was interesting to me, and is probably not to a lot of people, is the casting in this movie is kind of crazy. Like, you've got Jennifer Lawrence, who obviously goes on to become like pretty big. I don't know. I feel like this is
post Hunger Games.
Is it post Hunger Games?
Yeah. Well, at least like mid Hunger Games.
No, this came out before the first Hunger Games.
Oh, surely not.
Yeah, First Class 2011, Hunger Games 2012.
Fuck, they were filming. That means she was like probably filming at the same time. I didn't realize like
they're probably filming them at the same time.
Wow.
You got Nicholas Hoult, who was probably still.
Well, here's my question for Nicholas Hoult.
We know now.
Where didn't everyone learn Nicholas Hoult from? Because I grew up watching Skins, so I've always known who Nicholas Hoult was.
Okay.
And my any girl I dated in high school was like, he's the hottest guy ever, because they all love watching the show Skins. Now, Skins, Karen, I'm not sure. It's from the country United Kingdom, and it was a pretty popular TV series there. So,
have you heard of it?
Have you heard of that? Or?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Cool.
No.
Anyway, he was on the first 2-3 seasons. There you go.
No, this is probably the first thing I saw him in.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure for a lot of people, this is where they first saw him from.
Oh, well, I guess
I would say
I never saw About a Boy, but I don't think many people would have.
I would say a lot of people, if you lived in the UK, that was probably Skins. Those first couple seasons was super popular there. So a lot of those people probably knew Nicholas Hoult, but outside that, Americans and whoever else.
I think I knew. I never watched Skins because I always felt when Skins was coming out, I was probably a bit young for it, but I definitely don't. I recognize his face. I think he has a very recognizable look to him as a person.
You got Zoe Kravitz.
Yep. Probably
who also goes on to Bigger Better Things.
Yep. I mean, her family name's big, but it's probably one of the earlier.
That's true.
Yeah.
Caleb Landry Jones, who is getting more well known in these last few years.
Yeah, this is one of his. This is probably the first thing I was showing him was this. But
yeah. And then Lucas Till as well. He's been starring in the MacGyver TV show for the last few years, so you know, he's had reasonable success. And then even Edie Gathke, who plays Darwin, he's about to be Mr. Terrific in the Superman movie. So,
Oh, he is. That's
Him
actually
and
great
Nicholas Hoult.
casting. That's really good casting, actually, for Mr. Terrific.
Yeah. So 2 members of First Class are going to be in the Superman movie. So yeah, kind of crazy, but Michael Vaughn has a talent for finding young talent. So that was the thing that I was thinking while I was watching this. I mean, all the training stuff is really fun. Like, I enjoy like the building up of the origins of the X-Men. And I enjoy the Mystique Magneto relationship and his slow turning of her to,
the origin of a meme,
I was going to say, I can't take
the origin of the meme.
I can't take that scene seriously anymore. Like, that meme has just ruined that entire scene because I can just think of so many different versions of that meme format that have been created by that moment.
I reckon 10 years from now, kids have seen that meme and have no idea it's from this movie.
Yeah, exactly, right? 100%.
That's Michael Fassbender. All right. Any other thoughts on anything else?
I will say, just based on the casting, I think it's impressive that they found 2 actors that could live up to the roles that have been played by Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, and like Fassbender and McAvoy do such a good job both in their own right, where it's like, okay, if at the time, I guess, when you're looking at this as just a straight line sequel or a straight line prequel, you can see how these characters lead on to become McAvoy and to become like McKellen and Stewart in the future stories as well.
Yeah, I mean, even their casting is like pretty out there picks, I guess. Like McAvoy had done like Atonement and Wanted and stuff like that, and the Chronicles of Narnia. And Fassbender was probably best known for his role in Inglourious Basterds before that, but hadn't in Hunger. So yeah, I think they're the key to this entire trilogy and that kind of stuff. Or the prequel series of films, and the real reason to keep watching them. So
my tidbit for this is I remember when they announced this movie. I used to read Empire magazine a lot. That's what I used to read, mostly film news. Prior to the, we got Twitter on our phones now and stuff. Who needs it? But you used to read magazine, kids. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So you used to read
magazines here, Ciaran, are like paper printed every month with like pictures on them.
You'd buy them. They cost about $12.95, $11.95. You'd read the latest film news in them. Anyway, I picked up an issue when they announced this, and they talked about how First Class was being written by Jane Goldman and it was being directed by Matthew Vaughn. And I remember just being like excited because I knew that that was coming off Stardust, which like Kick-Ass and everything. And I gotta say, my hot tidbit when I was rewatching this and seeing the credits and everything, I think Matthew Vaughn has had a huge decline. His movies, and also Jane Goldman, I think, has had they reach a high. Like they do this, they have like a partnership. They do this, they do the sequel, even the first Kingsman, and then they fucking like.
Ciaran, what's the most marvelous moment of X-Men First Class?
I got my answer if you want me to go.
I don't think for me it's not singular moments. I just love everything between Magneto and Xavier. Like, just in general, just how their relationship grows in this movie. Yes, it's done super quickly and it's done in such a short period of time that it's annoying and wish it should be done longer. But I have a great appreciation for that relationship throughout this movie.
Okay, Dylan, what's the most marvelous moment?
When Wolverine says "fuck off."
That was a great cameo at the time. I do.
This is back when in
1962, before the Vietnam War.
This is an exciting cameo. This is when cameos. I remember this being a fun cameo, and I'll tell you what, it still holds up. In retrospective, this was still fun cameo before they feel like overstuffed and everything.
Wrestling terms, you would say it popped you.
Yeah, it did pop me. Rewatching it, I remember that's the first time they ever swore. It was like hearing Wolverine swear. Prior to getting Logan and everything, the R-rated movie and shit, like at the time, it was like, this is the best we're going to get. Yeah.
Close we're going to get. I mean, to me, it's Magneto turning all the missiles back on the Russian and American armies. That was cool. obviously the turning point. Also, this is the movie I've learned the most about the Cuban Missile Crisis from. So I choose to believe a bunch of mutants stopped a bunch of Cuban missiles from being fired, and that's why the World War III didn't happen there. All right, I've got a new category for this mutant rewatch. Dylan, who is the mutant of the movie?
Who is the mutant of the movie? Magneto. Best character, best story, best arc. Best overall mutant of the movie, Magneto.
Ciaran, who's the mutant of the movie?
Yeah, I've got to say Magneto. I was almost going to say Mystique, but her costume design, I think, is fucking horrible in this movie when she is in, like, I just don't like the red wig when she is in her, like, natural form. So, no, I have to go Magneto as well.
Mutant and proud, Ciaran.
She looked horrible. And even, like, Jennifer Lawrence said how terrible that, like, the situation around that whole thing is. But I just, it just didn't look good.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be Magneto. Is the key draw of the movie, and like the he gets to show off his powers the best in this movie. I mean,
Fassbender, good actor.
Yeah. So, all right, let us know what you thought of X-Men First Class by letting us know on Twitter by going to explosion.com/Twitter or jump to Discord at explosion.com/Discord. If you want to help us out here at All New Marvelcast, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser. Leave us 5 stars. Anyone leave 5 stars or just tell people about the show. And if you've enjoyed this episode or what we're doing here and think it's worth $1, head on to the Cove page at explosion.com/support. Alright, make sure you watch X-Men Origins Wolverine and join us next week for another All New Marvelcast.